Hi, I'm Emily. I'm Azalea. I was born in Holland. I was born in Malaysia, but I've lived most of my life in Indonesia. I've lived in the US, Pakistan, China, Malaysia, and Indonesia. But we both go to the British School Jakarta now. As you can see, we're pretty international individuals. And with that in mind, you wouldn't be wrong to assume that we're both very individual people. But if there's one thing that we both share, besides being classmates, is a passion for the environment. Yet the experiences that we have with the environment are both as different as the people that we are. Both my parents are heavily involved in the conservation of Borneo's rainforest. Because of this, by the age of 10, I've been to 4 orangutan rehabilitation centers, 8 locations deep within the heart of Borneo, 8, met more wildlife specialists than I can count on 2 hands. That's 10 fingers. 10 fingers, yeah. Okay. And sat through hours of conservation-related presentations, which in all honesty, I would much rather not attended. Like you guys. Because of this, I've become very passionate about saving the wildlife of Borneo and the environment in which they live. My experiences with the environment are perhaps a little bit more relatable to the general public. Both my parents work with the Malaysian government, and unfortunately, in that line of job, you don't really get that many chances to meet baby orangutans. The only extended experience I've ever had with nature and the environment has come from school trips. In fact, the only time that I've spent overnight in a tent in the forest was with, unfortunately, this girl. So what does this say about Emily and I? Does Emily's richer, more hands-on experience with the environment mean that she cares more about the environment than I do? Well, of course not. I mean, I'm here, aren't I? But the truth is that since I don't have a personal history with the environment and no actual memories with it, it does make it a little bit harder for me to have that drive, to have that change, and to remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. See, in our society, going green is become a social norm. We off the lights because we're told to, we recycle because we're told to, we save water because we're told to. Yet, if you ask urban youth why they're doing what they're doing, the answer is a little bit worrisome. See, we save the forests that we've never walked in before. We save animals that we've never met before, and we save the seas that we've never even swam before. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we do care for the environment, but sometimes we forget why we should.
Sadly, most people of our generation have had about as much interaction with wildlife as Azalea has, even the people who are most passionate about the subject. But this isn't really their fault. Just because they don't have the personal interaction with the environment means that saving it is more of a theoretical problem rather than an actual problem that they can solve. This is very apparent in schools such as ours, which calls itself an eco-school.
Calls itself,
apparently. When you see people doing things such as intentionally not recycling bottles. This isn't necessarily because they're a bad person, in most cases. It's because they don't know what the impact, like say, recycling one bottle has. They don't know the severity of the situation. So to them, doing that really doesn't do much.
no big deal.
In a recent school project, I researched animal welfare in Indonesia. I studied illegal markets such as Pramuka Market in Jakarta and zoos. Before I started this project, I was very aware of the amount of students in our year, in our class, 5 or 6 at least, who were in possession of illegal animals and illegal animal products such as tigers,
Fennec foxes,
giant tortoises,
like narwhal horns.
and some of them even have baby tigers preserved in formaldehyde in their living room.
And we were wondering, like, how does that work? Does your baby tigers match your white walls? Like, how would that work?
Also, when I was researching zoos, because Indonesia is infamous for having zoos where animals, up to 200 animals can die each year because of neglect and maltreatment. I was looking at a zoo near Jakarta called Taman Safari.
And for those of you who don't know what Taman Safari is, it's basically, like most things in Jakarta, a commercial zoo. It's a fast food zoo. You sit in your car, you drive through the zoo, and you see animals through your window screen. You take a selfie, and you're done.
Because people don't want to go into the forest. They don't want to sit under a tree to maybe see a monkey. They don't want to sit there forever. They just want to sit in their air-conditioned car, go through, take a selfie. It's like you've been to Africa, you see a giraffe over there, a zebra over there, you're home in 3 hours. And why is it that the only interaction that people of our generation can have is at places such as Taman Safari, where animals are starving to death in small, dark enclosures? It's not right that that's the only time that they can actually interact with animals.
See, in the world that we live in, we have a lot of access to information about animals. We have documentaries, the internet, yet when it comes to one-on-one experiences, it's like next to zero. So whose fault is this? Our parents? Our schools? Well, I've been to 3 international schools in the past 5 years, in China, Malaysia, and Indonesia, and I've been involved in the environmental committee for each of them. Yet in all these 3 locations, which have very different environmental issues, all the committees focus on the same 3 things. 3 things that I'm sure all of us have heard thousands of times before. Reducing, reusing, recycling. I've never heard of a conservation committee or a wildlife council, and why is that? I personally believe that people only do the most that they can do when they know and they can see that their actions have a direct impact. And which is why, when it comes to an issue such as wildlife conservation, like Emily said, it's such a theoretical problem. It's hard for us to understand that what we do actually makes a real difference because we've never seen it before. And it's with this mindset that our classmates, they're not that people. They just don't have the experience with wildlife. They can so nonchalantly involve themselves in the illegal animal trade. So what I'm trying to say here is that I think I speak for most urban youth when I say that we do care for the environment. We're aware that this is our future, this is our world. And you can see that because we donate to wildlife funds and we involve ourselves in raising awareness projects, yet the chocolate bars that we eat contain the same palm oil that's killing the animals that we're trying to save. And all these small things, it's not lack of information or lack of knowledge because it's right there at our fingertips on our phones. It's a lack of personal, physical connection.
We, as members of this age group, have recognized that the only way that we can really help the environment is if we get people, the youth, to become passionate about saving. Because we are the future. I'm sorry to say, but most of you here in 30 or 40 years, you won't be in the position to help the environment like you do now. It's up to us. Sorry. So what we really need to do is to make young people involved with the environment, passionate about it. For example, I've been to places such as Meijaard and an orangutan rehabilitation center in central Kalimantan. And every time I went to a place like this, I became more passionate about saving these animals. But most people wouldn't have even heard of a place like this, let alone being able to go to one. I've only been able to go to places like this because my dad has connections. So what we need to do is to make places like this, like Meijaard, more accessible to the general public without making them into a place like Taman Safari. So what we really need to do is to get young people back into the environment, because if we don't, in 30 years' time, when we cannot do anything to save the environment anymore, our generation will be looking at each other and thinking to ourselves, where did we go so wrong?